Hi, Vincent.
Hi. So Elizabeth Glass made me take down my interview with her because when I had a conversation with you afterwards, I said I didn't think she would accomplish anything. And I'm a little bit confused because she said I called her a Jewess, but Jewess is not a bad word. Jewess is not a Jewess. What's wrong with the word Jewess?
Nothing. I mean, that was what I learned at school. Like doctor, doctoress. Um, you know, um, all these sort of masculine and feminine names for people who work. I'm just trying to think of more.
I don't think Jewess is 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 a bad word. I don't think Jewess is a pejorative.
No, no. I mean, Jewish is sort of like, oh, not really, just a little bit ish. Like yellowish. Not really the thing, just a little bit of it. But I guess you decided to get offended because, well, for reasons of her own, I guess.
Well, it's just that there are, and I told her they contacted me from Israeli News Live, and they're like, "Oh, did you offend her? Did you say what she said wasn't going to work?" And I said, yeah, I did say that. And I told them, I said, I'm not appearing on any more of these kinds of fucking shows because it's just too much. I'm not, well, this is the thing about Christians is that, they want to use you, but then they want to control you and not, they, you know, so now I can't like say what I really think because I invited, so now I invite you on my show, but now I have to take it down because I have an opinion. You know what I mean? Because I have an opinion that it won't work. I mean, why aren't you happy that you got to broadcast? I mean, I've been on shows with people who hate homosexuals to talk about the Noahide laws. I mean, I didn't make it, and I didn't tell her in that interview that it wouldn't work. I was polite in the interview. It was the next interview, and I just said, well, I just don't think it's going to work, and she just couldn't handle that, and I'm done. I'm done dealing with these people, and
Yeah, well,
it has to do with this normie mentality of like, okay, like we actually will go on shows knowing we're going to be bashed. We don't care that we're going to be bashed. Like, it doesn't. I don't care that I'm going to be bashed, and like they can't stand the slightest bit of. I didn't bash her. I said I disagreed. I said I thought she was going nowhere. That's not bashing someone. That's just stating your
you were
opinion.
being perfectly civil to her.
No, I was, and I wasn't nasty to her in the next interview. I wasn't like, oh, that effing Jewess. I didn't say that. I just, was like, she's not, it's, most Jews are not going to, become, rowdy about this like she's become. You know what I mean? And she's still a little bit scared. She's scared of getting the government after her, or whatever, or Jews causing problems for her, or, that kind of thing, which I don't know why. It seems like the Jews or the government causes problems for everyone except for me. I mean, I do get, okay, my websites get taken down by Google and, that kind of thing. And, they don't let me on YouTube and they block my computer from going all these different websites that they do to me. But like, it's not like they're like coming here and arresting me or, whatever. They, it like, it, everyone is so
The
scared of.
snowflakes, terrified of their own shadow, frightening themselves with their own fears. And it's not just her, is it? I mean, it's a lot of people. And you say, well, what's the point? What is the point if you're only preaching to the choir? You
Yeah,
know,
you're only preaching to the choir and it's just just kind of like going on Israeli News Live. Oh, we don't want him on there because he's gay and he's a gay supremacist. And I'm not on there to talk about that. I'm on there to talk about the Noahide laws. I'm an expert, and just focus on what's going on. Be grown up. They're not grown up. These these Christians. They're not grown ups. Um,
Which is why
yeah, they're
they won't be around for much longer. And these Reform Jews, they're not going to be around for much longer. And we have to understand that the Orthodox Jews are proper Jews, regard them as heretics. And that was why, it doesn't matter what they say, they have no authority to say anything because the observant Jews would say, the heretics. So why are you listening to them, Gentile? You don't even, know which Jews you should be talking to. I mean, not that, you know, rabbis even have that much authority amongst themselves. That's why you've never heard of rabbi this or rabbi that, because they don't even bother talking to us. I mean, the more I think about it, even the proper rabbis have no influence at all. They have no influence over their own people. And that's why they keep splitting and splitting and splitting and behaving like they were the hippie movement. And that's why you get two Jews, three opinions. I mean, really, they are a complete mess. They really might as well be the hippie movement. And the thing is that there is no central authority. I mean, to the extent that you can say, oh, this is a high status Jew, it'll because, oh, he's a chief rabbi of the British Commonwealth. And it used to be called imperial Jewry when Britain had a global empire, you know. And I suppose technically, Chief Rabbi Mervis is the chief rabbi of Jews in New Zealand and Australia and Canada, but not the chief rabbi of, you guys. Because, you guys have a kind of rent a rabbi. Like, oh, well, I like this rabbi, therefore I think he's the bee's knees and I hate yours, and, because I think your rabbi is a heretic or stupid or whatever. I mean, that's why, the structure of the Pope of the Catholic Church was entirely copied by the Anglican Church. Because it's like, well, at least there's a, final authority on matters of Catholic doctrine, and it's the Pope. And whatever he says rules because he's the last, because he's God's vicar on earth, you know. But I
right.
mean, they're both without authority. I mean, that's what we need to understand. And you may know, or perhaps I haven't told you, but I can easily dig out the letter of these ultra orthodox rabbis in Israel saying, shock horror, Chief Rabbi Mervis is a heretic because he cooperated with the British government in compiling their LGBT Jewish schools handbook. How could he do such a thing? That's terrible. He's a heretic. And then there's this sort of, letter in Hebrew circulated saying, oh, nobody listened to him. And if any Jew in the British Commonwealth should listen to Chief Rabbi Mervis, their afterlife is in peril. I mean, that's what they say about each other. I mean, they're just as bad as Muslims, calling each other heretics. But that's what goes on in their community. I mean, I'm not even saying that the ultra-Orthodox are any good. Because nobody listens to them. And if you listen to Rabbi Mizrahi, he will say, it's terrible, even with us ultra-Orthodox Jews, because, there's one synagogue, and then the people in it disagree, and they just open up another synagogue just down the road. So they it's like opening shops.
Well,
And
yes,
that's
this
why
is
they have no influence. But yes, once upon a time, when Gentiles were mean to Jews, they had to stay together because, they couldn't just sort of, go into the big, bad Gentile world and assimilate. But now they can, and they do. And that is why so many rabbis say things that are liberal, because they want to make it not, weird for Jews to believe what they believe. and then they become like Christians, just using the brand of Judaism, but saying, basically everything is allowed.
Luke
And
Croft,
there's nobody to tell them no. There's nobody. Well, not in America anyway.
Luke Croft in the comments knew I was making an omelet. Um,
Because I could hear the thing, the beater beating against a bowl where the eggs were in, right?
mm, um, well,
So,
yes,
so
but
that is why, that's why the world is in a mess. So people complain about President Biden, but they know he's not really in charge and he might drop dead any moment. And that's why everybody is just doing their own thing, and thinking, well, I'm just going to get away with it because there's no one in charge, and this has got to stop. And this is a kind of that's why the hierarchy is so important, and the only hierarchy that people really get is the hierarchy of the army, of the military, general and soldiers, who gives orders and who follows orders, and orders passing cascading downwards from the general. I mean, and that's why this whole liberal idea of equality, fraternity, and liberty cannot work. It's going to collapse, and we are living out the consequences of this laundry list of the French revolutionaries who said that they wanted liberty, equality, and fraternity, and it's impossible. It's impossible to have those three things in that retarded way, and it is retarded. Because I mean, can you imagine your armed forces being run on the principles of liberty, equality, fraternity? Nobody would do anything. Nothing would get done. And what we have now is a macrocosm of this, like, well, I'm not doing it, why should I? I'm your equal, you go do it if you want to get yourself killed attacking those people over there. You do it, I'm not. And you can't make me.
I think the point that there was a reaction against, pure authority, where yes, you were sent off to war for absolutely no reason.
Sorry, you're not, you're
Oh,
very, no.
I said this was a reaction against the opposite, where yes, and it used to be you were sent off to war for absolutely no good reason and put in a trench and murdered, and people got sick of it, and so they said, I'm not just obeying. I don't want some all-encompassing, overarching system above me. I want to have some say myself, and I want to be able to say that, I don't want to go to the military. I mean, look, um, I mean, I have mixed feelings about Jehovah's Witnesses, and that, okay, I can understand why they are banned in 41 governments, because if you have people that are refusing to do military service, and if that grew to any great extent, then you wouldn't be able to defend your country. However, at the same point, do Jehovah's Witnesses have a point that these wars are nonsense? Yes, they do. Do they have a point that this is just, the British American Empire playing games of prophecy? Then yes, that's correct. Like,
Yes,
I
yes, yes. And Islam has a different way of organizing it. They have this thing called a war party. You want to go to these, you want to go on, you want to make war on these people, you get yourself the resources, but it would be treated like a kind of private enterprise
well, I
if it's
think
an aggressive war, because really, only defensive wars are allowed in Islam, and only successful imperial wars are allowed. And obviously, if you're successful, great, everybody will gather around you and say they supported you all along. But it has to be successful, and in order to be successful, you want people who might be interested in winning it. Be like, oh well, we can do it. I've got these men and they're committed. They because of the share in the booty that they're gonna get. They would have something to incentivize them rather than just being conscripted to die in a war that whose reasons they don't even understand.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Muslim way. I mean, the Muslim way is always to create the reasons for war. They say, oh, we do. The thing is that they go into a country and they start spreading Islam, and their attempt is to make it into a Sharia state. And when people say, well, we're not going to just let you come in here and transform our way of life and eventually erect a Sharia state, they claim that they're being persecuted, and then they go in and murder everyone. I mean, that, like, if I did that to a Muslim country, let's say that I had my polytheistic government and I said, emigrate to Muslim countries, try to change the culture, make tons of converts, and overthrow the Sharia government and install a polytheistic government. Muslim countries would say, you're not allowed in here. You're not allowed to come in and preach that nonsense inside our country. But they feel the right to do that to everyone else, until they get pissed. That was what, Muhammad did. Muhammad went into the square, into the Kaaba square, and started defaming everybody's gods and telling them they were all wrong. And then when some of the polytheists got mad and attacked him, and then he said, well, let's just murder the polytheists until they convert and destroy all their temples and idols. I mean, it's just, it's a
It wasn't
ploy.
quite like that. I mean, the jizya is a conditional tribute. So,
No,
so
it was
you,
quite like that where Muhammad went into the Kaaba and was defaming everyone's gods and they got
but
mad.
he
And
was a Meccan himself, and he got himself thrown out for
for
carrying on like
agitate
that.
yeah carrying on like that and agitating against other people's idols, and then he used that as an excuse to murder people until they
No, no, because,
converted. I
because I
mean,
mean, they said to him, "Look, Muhammad, if we get rid of all these idols, we won't get the pilgrims coming anymore. It would be bad for business. Can't you see?"
well,
And
yeah,
then he
but
said, you just make an idol of your Allah and we'll put it among with all the other idols there. How about it, Mo? And he said no.
yeah, well, I mean, what do you expect people to say? I mean, this is what my plan is
Because
to
but you
get.
don't understand the whole principle of it. It's
No,
because he
my
stood
plan.
by his principle that he got great. I mean, if
Yeah,
he just agreed, then there'd be no Islam.
yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is you can't go in and agitate people and then use that as an excuse when they attack you to go on wars of mass conversion. That's what I'm saying. In America, in the West, we need to agitate outside of mosques until they come out and get violent, and then we can say, look, these Muslims are violent, and we need to protect ourselves, and we need to start killing them until they convert to polytheism, and we need to destroy all their mosques, and
Okay,
that's it.
okay. Well, if you want to, you have to have a religion for them to convert to,
Well,
and
I'm
Americans
creating
have
my
no
system.
official religion.
Well, there was no official religion. Islam wasn't the official religion. When Muhammad started his thing, he made it the official religion. But
Exactly.
they're not victims. Okay, they're not victims because if I went and I blasphemed Allah outside of a mosque until they get violent with me, nobody would consider me a victim. Okay, they would be like, well, why were you doing that? Whereas in the reverse, it is victimhood because of what they did. Those polytheists never did anything to the Muslims until they started blaspheming their gods in the middle of the Kaaba. It just, they weren't like running after Muslims because they were, peaceful monotheists and murdering them. It wasn't like that's what was happening. But Muslims, started this. They've murdered all the polytheists. They've gone around and set up these Sharia states, and we have a right to agitate outside of their mosques and say, no, you can't bring that here. And what if a bunch of women said, okay, you're trying to bring Sharia here to America. I don't want my testimony to be worth half that of a man. I don't want my husband to be able to beat me. I don't want to have to get 4 witnesses to my rape. And so I'm going to protest outside of here, and I'm going to
Yeah,
make
and
a big.
Muslims would say, no, no, it's not like that. You got it all wrong. In
No,
fact,
I'm
it's
sorry. It is half. A woman's testimony is half that in property cases. It is true. Yes, Muslims come out and they lie, but then if you push it enough and you show them all the scriptures, they get violent.
really when.
Of course they. Oh, you Muslims don't get violent in the West with people.
Yeah, but,
They,
but not after you just have
of course they.
a
I got
reasonable
threatened to be
discussion with
beheaded.
them.
I got threatened to be beheaded because I was showing about crimes against women in Islam, and they threatened to behead me.
In the same room, or was it a kind of internet thing?
No, it was in the same room. It was in the same room. They threatened to behead me. One of them threatened to behead me. So they do get aggressive if you show too much
Did you
of.
report
Yes, I
it?
did. I did report it.
And
That's
then
what.
what
That's what.
happened?
That's what started this whole thing. That's what started I turned against Islam. This whole anti-religious crusade that I'm on is because Muslims threatened to behead me because I was posting on YouTube. I mean, I was posting on Facebook tragedies and atrocities against women and against minorities and all this stuff, and then they threatened to behead me.
And then what happened?
And then the school didn't care, so I left school. And I started
They didn't care?
No, they said that that it meant stop posting this stuff on Facebook. They didn't actually mean they were going to behead me. They meant it more like, if you keep posting this stuff, then we're coming for you, and which is a threat anyway. You know what I mean? To like take your finger and slide it across your neck twice, like you're going to behead me. Is more than, it's not just, they made it seem like this innocent thing that didn't matter, and that I was basically.
Was it at high school?
No, it was at college. And they said that this didn't really matter, and that it wasn't that big of a deal, and so I left school and I started my whole anti-Islam crusade, and I'm just looking at the chats. Maybe there's a syncretic resolution between these two ideologies. I don't know what two ideologies he's talking about.
I don't know if I ever mentioned to you that there's this paper written about white nationalism and Islam, and it was saying it'd be so terrible if these two got together, it would just topple.
It's happening, and that's what I told Stephen J. James. Stephen J. James is such a typical straight white man in that, okay, we can see this happening. They're just incapable of seeing what's coming on the horizon. Okay, let's say that. I mean, so who is that Australian alt-right white man who was racist and wanted to get Muslims out of Australia and all this other stuff, and now he's a Muslim, and I mean, there are other ones, who have converted, and, can't you see what's coming? Can't you read the sign on the wall? And the thing is that they'll never do anything until it's too late. Until 50% of the alt-right has converted to Islam, and then they'll say, oh, there's a problem. We have to do something about this. But, of course they're going to convert to Islam because Islam has a program, a plan, a community, countries, all these different kinds of things. And of course that's going to be appealing compared to shit posting and being disrespectful to women. Religious Muslim men are not, they believe women need to submit, but they're not disrespectful about it. They're not like trashy about it. They're not, oh, bitches need to submit, yo. Like, it's just not like that in Islam. And, that's why women go for Islam, because women don't want to sleep with these men. Even the thing is that even right-wing women don't want to sleep with those men, because no woman, I don't care how right-wing she is, wants to be told day in and day out that she's naturally evil and a total bitch and you worth nothing but her cunt and all this other kind of stuff. No woman wants to hear that. I don't care how conservative she is. All women are a little bit feminist. And they're just, they're just not going to tolerate that. And, Muslim men they're smooth and, oh, baby, I'm going to take care of you and you don't understand. And you can have a family at home and I'm going to be the one who goes to work and you stay at home and I'm going to schmooze you. And, dark men and Arab men especially are very, very hospitable and giving and very, oh, you're my little kitten and all this other kind of stuff. And just white right-wing men are just not like that, and they post memes about it all the time about what bad boyfriends they are and how all they do is play video games, and they think it's funny, like these memes like where the girl's upset because her husband just used her and then went back to playing video games. And, they think that this is funny. They think that women see that, okay? Women see that, Muslim men don't post humor like that because they know it would turn women off.
Mm-hmm.
they know that would turn a woman off for, I'm just using her, pumping and dumping her, and going back to my video games, and like showing memes of white men sitting in rooms that are absolutely filthy and full of garbage, and basically, where's a woman to come clean this up? You know what I mean? Like, who wants a man that can't clean his own apartment? Like, you expect a woman to go in and even want to go in your apartment when it's such a pigsty, let alone clean it?
Yeah.
This is like, I do think that Muslim men, like, I think that, Islam, it promotes cleanliness, and I'm sure that, it's not, in a Muslim family environment, well, the thing is that young Muslim men, if they're religious, they're not really allowed to go live on their own. They have to get married, right, before they leave the house. Don't they have to kind of, isn't it considered in these more primitive cultures that a man, at least I know it was like that for my husband in Latin America, and I know it's like this in Indian culture, you don't leave your house until you have a wife or you have a husband, and then you're expected to keep your house clean and presentable for children. Whereas these white men, they're allowed to leave the house without. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, but they leave their house without a wife. They live in a pigsty. Half of them. They do nothing but play video games all day. And the thing is that in Muslim culture, you're forced to get a wife before you can go out, and then you don't have time to play video games all day because you have a wife, and then you have a child within a year, and you just don't have time to get settled in your ways as a bachelor, and all these different kinds of things. And that's why I'm saying that white people cannot go back to living like that type of lifestyle. They're too spoiled, and the only thing is these artificial wounds, and or surrogacy, and paying white women to have your children, and that's it. And there's no way to break them of this. These white alt-right men are not giving up their video games. They're not giving up their video games. They're just not doing it, and they're too comfortable. They're not going to go out into the streets and fight. They don't go out and protest, and then they refuse to put their platform in a presentable way. I mean, they come off as aggressive, they come off as racist, and then they complain that they can't go out and do what they want and have their little protests because it comes off as like threatening. I mean,
and they're stupid and they're poor.
Yes, they're stupid and they're poor. And look, I mean, Muslims are stupid and poor, but that's not an excuse they have. They don't use that as an excuse, to
They
not
still manage to get married anyway, even if you think they're stupid and poor.
and protest and get into the government and get government jobs and become elected officials and all this other kind of stuff. And they manage all this. They manage all this totally.
So there's something inherently flawed in the character of these men who hate Muslims, but they won't even talk about the solution. So, I try, and they just, it's all insults and get out of our country, and never mind how we're gonna live after we get rid of you, assuming we get rid of you. We're just not gonna talk about it. So they can't even talk the talk.
Max
So they
Demian,
certainly can't walk the walk.
Max Demian is saying that his place is immaculate. Well, maybe it is, but I mean, your type is still posting, memes on Facebook showing yourself just playing games in a pigsty and being like, "Where's a woman to clean this up?" I mean, it's just not, and that is a streak in the community. These are all streaks. Misogyny to the point that you're gay is a streak. Just using your girlfriend for sex is a streak. Being a slob and telling your girlfriend to clean up after you is a streak. And, it's just not as common in religious Muslim households. Not as common. Yeah, Max Demian is saying he doesn't have a Facebook. Well, you have a Telegram, and I don't know what kind of posts you're posting, but I see a lot of woman hatred, and there is a lot of woman hatred, and the thing is that you're not actually like coaxing women out of whoredom. You're just trashing them, whereas a Muslim man is more schmoozy, and they're more schmoozy, and they're known for that. They're known for being polite and um generous, and the thing is
Yeah,
that
they'll pay for this for their stuff. They would never dream of going Dutch, you know, and that pisses a woman off so much.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they're more likely to say I'm going to pay for everything, and you don't have to work. And I remember, you know, um, making your wife work pregnant, and that's difficult. And I know probably most women are like, oh, I can do it. I can work pregnant. But I remember, hearing this one man. He was white. I don't know what his politics were. But he's obviously conservative. But he's talking about, well, my wife needs to work when she's pregnant, and she needs to get back to work right after she has the baby. Blah 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 blah. Like, this is like, that's why I said, well, we need to make women work less hours but still get enough pay, and they need maternity leave and all this other kind of stuff, which I know causes problems. I mean, the thing is that I don't think women are evil like all these straight men do, but I think they inadvertently cause problems. Okay, they inadvertently make life difficult. They, just by their very nature, they make life difficult. Like, it is difficult to hire a woman because she might get pregnant, and then she needs pregnancy leave, and she might complain she's not getting paid enough, and then women are more likely to be sexually harassed, and so you have to deal with more sexual harassment cases. Whereas if you have an environment of all men, there's no real sexual harassment unless one of them is gay, and then usually it's the straight men that are sexually harassing the gay man. I mean, very rarely does an effeminate gay man like grope a big, straight, burly man in the middle of his job, because he's scared, because another man might punch him in his face. You know what I mean? Like, it's scary. I mean, I very rarely will hit on a man whom I'm not sure if he's gay or not. I'll very rarely do that because I'm scared. I'm scared to do
They might
that.
get violent, it, mightn't they?
See, Max Damien says Vincent loves his mother, and that's why he can't think why a woman might do something wrong. Like, oh, that you love your mother. This is what what's his name said. Himmler. He said this is the road to homosexuality, when you don't even love your mother. You know what I mean? When you hate women so much. He said you hate women so much that you get disgusted when they wave at you in your marching parade. You know what I mean? Like, that's the road to homosexuality, and I agree, and that's why all these MGTOW men, are going gay and getting trans girlfriends, and or becoming trans themselves, because they just.
They still want sex, and they want cheap sex. And they can't afford women, and women wouldn't do it for free. And there's no licensed brothels for them to easily get sex. So they kind of had to make, alternative arrangements for themselves. So if they don't want to be gay, they might, want a woman, but they can't get a woman. I think at the end of the day, it's down to cost.
Yeah, well,
And they're just sort of, playing sex games with each other. It's like, oh, I can't bear to think of myself as being, gay, so I'll just pretend that I'm really having sex with a woman. But even though he's really a man, but he's prepared to act like a woman. That'll have to do. So I'll fuck him. I mean, that's what they're reduced to. It's so sad.
well, it's their own fault because they refuse to treat women properly, and they also
Or,
they
or
re-
pay the full price of sex, which is to marry, to get a woman prepared to either give them wife sex or prostitute sex. But they keep hoping they'll get lucky, amongst the fornicatresses. And the fornicatresses only want to have sex with men that they find attractive. And many of them are not attractive,
No,
either in
and
appearance or in personality. It's just so. It makes my heart sink like a stone when they, oh, but I can't say this. Oh, I'm a bit mad, You shouldn't take anything I say seriously. I'm a bit mad. I suffer from mental health issues. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Don't report me. Don't take anything I say seriously. I'm just a joker, a comedian. Please don't hurt me. I mean,
well, yeah, and then everything is a joke, and all the, they all, they sit around and complain, but then when you really want to get into politics, I don't take this that seriously. I'm not really interested in politics, or mainstream politics, or I'm not getting involved in all that. Hold on one second, Claire.
fornicatresses. I'll spell it out for you. Now, who is a real man? A real man has principles, but you can't have principles if you don't have a religion. And even if you're atheist or agnostic, you should have the demeanor of somebody who speaks the truth and is capable of exercising logic. But I don't get that from the men I speak to. Because I can't get a sensible answer from any Western man about secular Quranism after all these years. And some of them have been to good universities, and some of them know exactly what I'm trying to do, but they can't bring themselves to discuss it.
They can't bring themselves to discuss anything but frivolity, and then, it's just, they really can't bring themselves to discuss anything but jokes and misogyny and homophobia. Fornicate, is that a word? Fornicatresses?
Yes, you can be a fornicator if you're a male, or a fornicatress if you're female. Fornicators and fornicatresses engage in fornication. You see, these old-fashioned words I guess they were legal descriptions of sexual acts between particular peoples, depending on their sex and marital status. And these distinctions are no longer understood.
What?
I mean, these distinctions are no longer understood because they come from religion. The idea of fornication, adultery, sodomy, incest. They're actually religious concepts. Before, genetic engineering and, even the first concept of genes and that sort of thing. They knew it was something to do with blood. I mean, somebody's obviously, a retard. You wouldn't want to marry him or her, because then your children might turn out to be retards, or they suffer from some kind of, family illness that runs in the family, or some, heritable disease like haemophilia.
Oh, God. Well, it takes a while.
A lot of things are no longer understood, Vincent. A lot of skills are being lost. A lot of reasoning tools are just no longer being used. I mean, the other day I was reading, these people who get angry with you, they can't even tell the difference between explaining why something is the way it is and justifying something. So to explain something is not to justify it. Just because I know the reason why somebody did X, Y, or Z does not mean I support their acts that you might be complaining about. So if every time you explain, why, it's sort of like you're an investigator. You want to find out who the murderer is, and then you think, well, the culprit is X because he had motive, because he had something to gain, or he wanted revenge, or whatever. I mean, that's not supporting their reason. You're just explaining their motives. But because people are just so stupid, they can't even make the distinction. They fight with each other on the basis of hearing something they dislike, which is called shooting the messenger.
Hmm. Shooting the messenger. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, shooting the messenger, lots of nonsense, just unfortunately. And there's nothing that can be done. And, it's just, this is why I'm saying that you need to start like a small clique and, basically, kind of try to gain control that way rather than through the masses because the masses will just
That's all
bring
they're
you.
trying to do.
Well, I
I
know,
mean, at least
well,
I'm just looking for the smartest people. I mean, I can't believe that in the entire West, you are literally the smartest person that I can talk to.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, and I don't know what happened to these people. And, part of the reason, I lament the fact that I was raised Jehovah's Witness, but part of the fact that I'm like this was that I was isolated from mainstream society, and I wasn't allowed to be like mainstream children, and I wasn't allowed to just, engage in the mainstream culture of vapidity and the thing is that I get really pissed. Why when you liberalize do you have to become vapid? I mean, who said that? Who said that just because, you've opened up your sexual morals or now you're open to new ideas and all this other stuff that you just need to become vapid and stupid. And the problem is that conservatives know that. Conservatives know that because they know that they're the type of people that would become vapid and stupid. Stephen J. James knows that he couldn't help but become vapid and stupid because he had freedom. So he wants to take away his own freedom, and he wants some dictator to come in and impose conservatism on him and not let him shitpost all day and not let him look at porn and not let him do all these different kinds of things. This is what conservatives want. They want someone to take away their freedoms so they're not vapid anymore because they know they can't do it on their own.
Well, your Jehovah's Witness upbringing meant that you read a lot, right?
Yes, we read a lot, and I had to read a
So that
lot.
was how you're smarter than the others.
Well, it depended on what I was reading too. I mean, look, Catholic boys fare less well than Jehovah's Witness boys, even if they go to Catholic school. First of all, Catholic school is like a place you go to become like a slut, a whore, a drug addict. You know what I mean? They're very famous. When I was in the city, I was raised partially in the city, and the girls from the Catholic schools were known to be whores. They were just known to be total sluts and worse than the girls that went to the public schools. And that's because, Catholicism is a very vapid, mainstream, of the masses religion. And, you could tell it's of the masses because, you go to the mass once a year and you're a good Catholic and it's fine. And, whereas Jehovah's Witnesses, no, you have to go 3 times a week, not once, 3 times a week. And then on your time off, you have to study for those meetings. And then there's auxiliary study. And then there's, Jehovah's Witness magazines that are just for fun and, all this other kind of stuff.
Well, I think it did you a lot of good. I think you should be. Well, actually, I think your mother made a good choice.
Well, I mean, she made a good choice in that she kind of, well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I still always have that, like, if I had been raised normal, I wouldn't have
Well,
gotten.
then you would be the people you're complaining about.
Yes, but I think I would be happier at the same time. I mean, maybe I wouldn't recognize certain things. I wouldn't notice certain things. And I would have just focused on myself and gotten a college degree and have been a gay man and had lots of boyfriends and all this other kind of stuff like all the other gay men are. And I can't get along with gay men. I'm not part of the gay community. I mean, gay men think I'm weird. They don't like being around me, and because they're more airy fairy. They're
Well, they
more.
don't like talking about the things you like talking about.
No, they don't like talking about the things that I like talking about, and they're very airy fairy, and
They don't like
I
talking of politics. Is that what you mean?
they
Very,
do, but
very.
only of a certain kind, like very liberal politics, very paint by numbers liberal, and when they are conservative, they're paint by numbers conservatives, and and when they're conservative, they're self-loathing, and gays shouldn't get married, and that's only for straight people, and even if they're not like that, they're women shouldn't be bitches, whores, and sluts. Like you're a whore. I hate when gay men like space pan. That's disgusting when a gay man who's getting fucked in his ass every night, goes after a woman who sleeps around. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever come across. Like there are gay men that are like that, like space pan, and it's just vile. It's so vile. Like because of the way you're built, you can go out and have sex with a different man every night. But like a woman, if she does it, she's a bad person. And Space Pan said, "Oh well, maybe it is a good way to deal with these whores by whipping them in public."
Well, I mean, gay men would get punished if they're caught cottaging too.
Well, not in this thing, and I don't think Space Pan wants that. I don't think Space Pan wants gay men. Well, not he
Well, I
doesn't.
suppose he thinks he'd probably be doing it in on private property.
Yes, I know, but he could sleep with a different man every day of the week, and it doesn't matter. But if a woman, makes a mistake once, she's a whore and a bitch and a slut, and that's just it's just not fair. It's not fair to be sleeping all around with everybody, and then complain about this. It's just it's trashy and it's dumb, and they and then they these men who are whores complain about everyone becoming whores, and they actually have a different morality for straight people than they have for themselves. They do. Those type of gay men, like Space Pan, they have, they're allowed to do it. They're allowed to do whatever they want. But straight people, because if you're blaming the woman, you're also blaming the man, because the man had to get her pregnant. So you're blaming both of them.
Yes, as they say, it takes two to tango. So you
Yeah,
can't blame just one party.
no, you can't blame just one party. So it's just, it's not. It's not a very noble position. It's just not noble.
But it's even lower for these straight men who to get they either get some woman to do it or some non-white woman to do it or a gay man. It's like just say what you need to say as a white man. And these people don't say it properly because they're not taken seriously. They actually need somebody like them, white and straight, to say these things, but none of them want to do it because they're all scared. You can read between the lines and know how low they are. Like they don't even have the courage to say what they need to say as men. And what they do, these men's rights activists, is to apply for rights. Like, oh, I'm an applicant, like these other minorities that apply to the government for more rights or whatever. you know, and they're just confirming their own low status. And they don't even know. They don't even have the self-awareness to know that this is what they do when they apply for rights with the matriarchy. And then all this, oh, then women have to say they're sorry. It's like, no, you gave women the power, and okay, they abused it, so you take it back, right? You take it back. If you don't think, all these people are fit to exercise power over you, you take it back.
Well, I mean, once the genie's out of the bottle, it's kind of like putting the toothpaste back in the tube. It's like it gets to the
Well,
point
you
that
talk about revolution. Geez,
yeah, but
I
I'm
imagine.
not. But also no, not revolution, evolution. I mean, I don't. I'm not looking for like coming out and like forcing people to do things. I'm looking for creating a clique that slowly mutates society.
Well, it's only when you. Well, I mean, the law allows you to do it. That I mean, which is why all political activism is about changing the law because then it changes behaviour. And that's the quickest way you can do it, which is why everybody wants, and it's like, oh, there's so many laws, so many laws. Oh, we'll just change the whole system. And that means revolution.
Yeah, well, I think that, that's the problem that the Nazis had. They tried revolution, whereas the communists were evolvers. They slowly, it took forever how long when was Mein Kampf written? Not Mein Kampf. When was the Communist Manifesto written in the 1840s?
I'm not sure exactly, I can look it up, but I mean, this is something. Wait, communist man. I mean, I know Hitler wrote it when he was in prison.
Yeah, I know. But the point is that Mein Kampf, took over in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, and the Communist Manifesto didn't even get implemented for like 40 years. You know what I mean?
1848, he wrote it in 1848.
Yeah, so 50 years it didn't get in until so that's 50, 60, 1970, 67 years it took, and that was 67 years of converting people and getting people on your side. It took more than a generation. I mean, a generation, let's say, give it generously 25 years. So that was almost 3 generations. That was almost 3 generations of conversion and prepping the soil and and brainwashing people and agitating people and infiltrating the government and all this other kind of stuff in order for this, you know, to happen. And the Nazis did it really quickly, and then they crashed and burned. They did it too quickly. They did everything too quickly, taking
Well,
over
he
the
shouldn't have
East.
gone to war. I mean, I think now, if I'd been Hitler, I would have just I would have just challenged the Pope and said, look, I would have kept asking about the Trinity until the Catholic Church collapsed, and then I would ask the same question about the Anglican Church, which is the second. Well, I mean, it's actually the most powerful church in the world if you want to measure the success of a church by the expanse of the territory of the people who adhere to it. Um, but yeah, if he had wanted to make a proper name for himself, he would have just he didn't like Christianity. He does say that. You can find lots of Wikipedia entries about Hitler saying he doesn't like it, that he didn't agree with Christianity and that Islam was better. So then, if he kept asking, they would eventually, it would eventually become clear that these popes and archbishops of Canterbury had no idea what they were talking about, and then he could, Hitler could have taken the credit for Islamifying Europe.
Well, I mean, he didn't want to. Well,
No,
he
no, I mean,
did.
he
He
wanted to do
did.
all sorts of things. He wanted to ban usury. After the Wall Street crash and the hyperinflation, he wanted to end usury. And there was this economist called Feder, Feder, um, with who he was, they were supposed to, abolish usury. But they only abolished it for ordinary people. But for the German state, they were, I mean, they had to use usury to finance their imperial wars, the Nazis. But yeah, he could have made it work in a peaceful way. I mean, he missed his chance.
Well, I mean, Europe would have ceased to be Europe if they accepted Islam. I mean, Europe.
No, no,
Yeah. Well,
no.
no, it
Again,
would.
it's
It
not
would change.
saying that is not true. Europe is a piece of land
I
with
know, but
people
Europe
in
would,
it.
the Europeans would change, and I mean, they would
Oh,
become unrecognizable.
they have changed as Christians and
I
white
know.
people
Well,
over the
I know.
centuries. You're
Yeah.
just being sentimental.
No, the point is that no, I was just about to say that when it Christianized, Europe changed. I mean, it would change just as much as when it became a Christian empire. It changed. It
It was
changed.
always changing. I
I
mean,
well,
obviously,
maybe they
the
don't want it to.
Tudor, the Tudor English person will not be the same as the Edwardian English person, and they'd still be, using the same religion.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
yes, I mean, just look at the, uniform, what they wear and stuff. I mean, obviously things change, whether, even without you wanting it to change, they'll change anyway. Fashion and new discoveries and inventions, etc. But what we want is some kind of stability, and we want the laws to be, well, we want to feel that the laws are the best possible laws that we could possibly have, and we don't feel stupid for obeying them. That's what we want. That is our spiritual need, Vincent. Because you don't want to think, oh, this is a stupid law, but I have to obey it because otherwise I'll get punished by my tyrannical government. I mean, that is really it. It's like, yeah, we just want the laws to stay the same so we can plan our lives and, parent our children and plan their future and, not be considered thought criminals by our children. Or regard our children as subversive or something. Or indoctrinated. We want the generations to agree with each other. It's like, come on, it's the same country, or it's the same family. Can't you even agree on politics? Apparently not.
well, I mean, the point is that you
The
know,
point is that you guys don't have a religion, and that is the problem. That, of course, that's a problem.
well,
You're a country full of cults.
how do you know that okay, so if you have technology that's ever evolving, there's going to be differences between the generations that you'll never be able to get rid of that. The only way to keep the generations flat is to get rid of technological advancement and new programming and new TV shows and new influences socially, culturally, new clothing, new drugs, new this, new that. Anything new is going to separate out the generations. And the thing is that as the culture changes, they're going to want a new religion that actually fits the culture, like what was happening in the 1960s. I mean, okay, when the 1960s and 1970s rolled in, it was no longer okay. Like maybe the older generation now, you're a woman, you should stay at home and take care of the children. Well, guess what? It was no longer affordable for a woman to stay home and take care of the children. She had to work. The old generation's way
Yeah,
of doing.
so it changed because what? The sex revolution,
No,
the
because the government, because the economy changed, and obviously, there's people who say the government was in a conspiracy to get women into the workforce.
okay. So
But it didn't work. The point is that who knew? It doesn't matter if the government or who caused it. The point was that women had to work in the 1970s and 80s if they wanted to get a house.
okay, so what? I mean, people have to have a conversation about what they want. So it's like, okay, if you don't want to get married, don't even engage in this conversation. Only people who want to marry can engage in this conversation, because because then you have skin in the game. So right, you man, you woman want to get married. What kind of life do you want to you know do you, a man, want your wife to stay at home and look after the children and clean your house? And the answer would be yes. And it's like, do you, a woman, do you want to do all that stuff? And it's like, if not, well, then you're not marriageable. Then no one will marry you if you say you don't want to do this sort of thing. You're not going to be a fit mother. So once you put people in these different groups, you can deal with them very effectively. I mean, obviously, you can't just say ask American, who will be, from 100 to, you know, zero. What they want. You have to ask people to put themselves in groups, and then you ask them what they want. And the most important people, if you want your people to, well, if you want your nation to stay in existence, would be women of childbearing age of interest to marriageable men. And this is how you have to think of the reorganization of your society. And if you put questions to these people in a certain way, they'll have to answer correctly in the end.
I know, but the problem is that, the rank and file masses that go out and have children and stay together, they tend to be fuddy-duddy dolts. And yeah, okay, like the man who gives up children so that he can, even if he's not gay, if he's like, and then he spends his life on two things, building up his career and entertainment. He's going to be more charismatic. He's going to have new ideas that help society, and he's going to be the inventor of the next big invention, and then he's going to get respect. And the thing is that they're fuddy-duddies. These people that just go along with the program and do what they're supposed to do.
Well, maybe you need a few people to do that. You don't want to be in a situation, Vincent, where you have more chiefs than Indians.
I
This is
know,
what
but
we have now.
they
This is
don't.
what
But
we
they
have
don't get.
now.
Okay, the same problem like Christians. The Christians have the same problem. Look, if you're always meek and you're always mild and you always say the nice thing and you turn the other cheek, you're going to get fucked over. Okay, like, this is like, oh, like, I'm not even going to look at the enemy's propaganda because that might be bad for my spirituality. Well, good luck. You know who's going to win? The person who looks at the enemy's propaganda, the pagan who doesn't care to look at a video that's sexually racy, or a video of that explains why Christianity is wrong, or this is wrong, or some, they're going to be able to sit there and listen to it and then be like, okay, let me parse this apart. Let me fight this. And then what happens? You have like your pagan, unmarried male doing all your fighting for you. And the Christians are all being like, then that's why they lost their society, because they were fuddy-duddies. They were just total fuddy-duddies.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the guests on Millennial are fuddy-duddies.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're married or not or whatever, but yes, the rank and file will always be fuddy-duddies. And,
They need to be, right? We still want a situation where we want more Indians than, sorry,
yeah,
yeah,
but
more Indians than chiefs.
people don't want to be fuddy-duddies. And the thing is that when you get married and have children, it's harder not to be a fuddy-duddy. You can't go out. You can't have fun. It's harder to get a college degree. It's harder to become some mass inventor because, you have to go home and take care of your children and spend time with them. And when you're home, they're loud and, they need your attention, and you can't go into your study and just focus on your career all day and focus on your invention all day. And, people get tired of being fuddy-duddies. And then no matter what happens, no matter how much the culture embraces marriage, the fuddy-duddies, there's always going to be special people who get special treatment because they're special. And a lot of those special people are not married, the stereotypical bachelor, and, that is, he's a ladies' man and he knows how to schmooze everyone. And because he's not married, he can flirt with the girls and get them on his side, and, it's just, it's the way it is. And I think that there's a propensity, one we know from statistics, the more attractive you are, the more likely you are to cheat. So, the problem is that the fuddy-duddy, the ugly fuddy-duddy who can't get another woman is the one who remains married. And then he sits there and like talks about the virtue of marriage, but the only reason he's married is because he's not attractive enough to cheat. And, and then nobody wants to hear him, and people are going to be like, oh, you're just ugly and that's why you're married. And, it's not a good system. It's not stable.
Well, I think that it was more stable before than it is now.
Well,
And,
that's
and
just,
maybe you just want some boring people to get married and stay married and be boring parents who don't abuse their children and do their best by their children. I
Well,
think
but they,
maybe you're being a bit judgmental.
well,
And,
they,
and also,
well, I mean, yeah, I like, okay, the reason my parents got divorced and married 3 times is because they weren't fuddy-duddies. They were like, well, my mother became no, my mother is still not, my mother's not a fuddy-duddy, but I mean, she became more fuddy-duddy when she converted and all that other kind of stuff. But, the reason that they both got divorced and married 3 times is because they had personality and they were uppity and they were strong willed and independent and unique and independent thinkers and wanting to go their own way, and people kind of respect that, rather than someone who just puts up to get along and they're not happy in their marriage but they stay anyway and they don't fight back and they just sit there like a miserable lump, and people are not going to be as attracted to that.
but what you must have suffered with all the marital breakups of your parents. Maybe you would have been more successful if your parents had brought you up in a stable home.
I know, but what I'm saying is that
Well, okay, we don't know. It's just there's certain rules and it makes sense. It's like, well, you've got children now, you might as well stay together to look after them properly, or they'll turn out bad, and then you'll get the blame and you'll be disgraced for having a failed marriage. So you just make the best of things. I mean, what's wrong with that? It's fair enough.
well, it's just that, yeah. Well, then you're like, what's it called? You're a lame-o. You're a pushover. Like, you're just, you
A
know,
dutiful person who takes your marriage vows seriously and who, I mean, the thing is, we already know what has happened to your society, because nobody takes marriage seriously. You get all these degenerates who can't do anything, who can't think straight, who can't discuss things, who can't cope with simple concepts. They're just inviting people to lie to them. You know, I mean, obviously, if they're going to, if their head is going to explode every time you disagree with them, then nobody's going to tell them the truth. They'll just have to keep lying to them. I mean, they're asking to be lied to. And we want, reasonable people, educated people who are capable of taking bad news like a man without having a tantrum. That's what we want. That's what women would respect. That's what men should be. Men shouldn't be competing with women to be, childish, immature, and irrational. And that, I think, is what makes women despise men so much.
well, they're obviously not programmed for this, and that, they're not programmed for. Look, I think straight men naturally tend to be jokesters, and not all of them, but what am I trying to say? What they're like, they there's a certain cultivated crassness there that women don't necessarily like. It's that more of the sexes where, men want to be loved for who they are, but women want to change the man. The woman wants to change the man and make him more serious and make him less, frivolous and these different kinds of things. And, then he resents it, and then she's a bitch, and, it's not.
I'm sure both parties to a marriage want to change each other. I'm sure you and your husband, I'm sure you do things that he doesn't quite like, but he puts up with it, and I'm sure, you do the same to him too.
There's less fundamental differences because we're both men. It's less. I mean, whatever. I'm not good enough at doing certain things around the house or whatever, but it's not like it's just total fundamental biological problem of not understanding each other, and And, and like John said, well, you know that gay men have the lowest rates of domestic violence. Lesbians have the highest. Or at least this is what Spacepan said, and I would trust him since he did all that research. And then the medium are the heterosexuals who have a medium degree of violence. And, the reason that well, there's two reasons why gay men have less violence. First of all, we're both the same size, so it's a little bit less likely that, with a man and a woman, well, I mean, I guess two women are the same size, so I guess it's not that. Maybe it is the women's fault. I don't know, but I don't know why lesbians have higher rates of domestic violence. I don't know why.
Well, I think women are just more easily made discontented, because in the story of Adam and Eve, it was Eve who kind of was targeted by the serpent to ask for more. And also there is the story of the fisherman and his wife. Do you remember that story?
Yes, you told me about she wanted more and more and more, and then they got a hovel.
Yeah. So I think it is actually the woman who is sort of avaricious, greedy, ambitious. Well, the man is like, I'm happy with what I have. So if the man does it at all, he's doing it for her. And maybe you need maybe sometimes people need a bit of a push to do things they don't want, and in the end it turns out well, you know, because I don't know if you meet people who don't have children, they're very boring too. It's like, oh, it's enough for our little pension, and we're just happy, we don't want any more. And if everybody thought like them, of course your society would also topple.
But I mean, yeah, the other thing is
You
that
need
as
some people to push and be innovative, but you also need space for the people who, are getting old and are set in their ways. But what you don't want is an aging society, an aging and shrinking society, which is profoundly unhealthy.
well, it's just that as people advance, they want more and more and more and more conveniences. Children are an inconvenience, and it's just people want convenience as soon as they have it, and once you give them that convenience, you can't take it away from them.
Oh yes, you can. I mean, of course, they're going to yowl and squawk, but at the end of the day, if it has to be taken away, it has to be taken away.
But where is your example of a society where the society purposely in a programmed way went backwards with social creature comforts and technology creature comforts and with all of these creature comforts, when have they ever just given that up?
I'm not
Uh,
saying that these should be given up at all. I'm just saying I'm just proposing the rejigging of the
okay,
status of different groups.
in what society ever has marriage broken down and then they were able to get it back together?
Um, well, I'm thinking of the Ninevites, but I don't know exactly how they got it together.
Well, that's fantasy. I mean, reality. Do you have any country you could point to where they got to the point that feminism and homosexuality was rampant, and then they were able to go in reverse and maintain it?
Um, I'm thinking of the Qing dynasty, and I mean, I know that the emperor was had a harem, and he wasn't a very good emperor, and then eventually his concubine became the empress dowager, and it was terrible because nobody accepted her authority. But the imperial system chugged on for a bit until it crashed and burnt. So I mean, I mean, people say, "Oh, it was a terrible time. That horrible woman," blah blah blah. So I guess that time would have been a kind of matriarchy where there was a lot of degeneracy and irrationality. And yeah, and then China descended into civil war, and then the communist revolution, and well, you don't want that, do you? I mean, okay, and then the Russians had the Russian Revolution, and then they had, well, their civil war. I mean, you just don't want to have that, do you? You know, you want a peaceful transition, and then you have a plan. You can explain how it's going to work really quickly, and people get it. And you know, for in the case of Marx, he didn't really have, you know, it's just a philosophical essay with a few predictions. Did you study Marx in any detail?
Not very, excuse me, not
Yeah,
very
I mean,
deeply.
basically, he was saying, look, I think he basically gave the eternal desire for disgruntled people who have been badly governed by their government to want to take the stuff of the people above them. It's I think it's an eternal innate desire to say, well, you've crashed and burned our economy. We're going to take your stuff because you made us so poor that we can't afford anything, and you've been living it up, and we know where you live, and we're going to come for you. I think that's what communism is really, but you know, Marx made it sound all, you know, philosophical and political and sophisticated. But I mean that's basically communism, and it is to take the you know, the property of the elites. I mean, we actually want something, well, better than that. And the thing is, you know, Islam is very useful because it's got 1400 years of history. It's got a book. It's got all these different schools of Sharia. So people know it's been around and it has worked. And
Well,
because
I don't know if it's worse since everyone in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Saudi Arabia, or not
oh,
just Saudi
please don't do
Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Okay, but the rest of the Islamic world is having a problem with rebellion. Look at what's happened. You always say Iran, Iran. I mean, women are burning their
I only
hijab.
use Iran because it's not a representative
Yeah,
democracy
but
like
I
all
mean,
the
it
other
has.
countries,
Its
which means
women
it's
are
not
right.
controlled by America.
Its women are rising up. They're having a problem. They need to crack down on the women, and they need to crack down on the intellectuals and all this other kind of stuff. And like, you know, it's not you're acting like this is some pleasant paradise for everyone
No,
when
no,
you
no. I mean, the people who talk about revolution in America, that you know, they make jokes about taking people on one-way helicopter rides and stuff. You know, of course, there's going to have to be a purge. There's always a purge after a revolution.
well, they obviously didn't purge enough in Iran. They obviously didn't purge enough. And you know, this idea that you need like purges to make it work.
Yeah, maybe they're a bit stupid about the hijab thing. I mean, you know, my idea would be to say that prostitutes in Iran, they don't need to wear their hijab. Let there be a proclamation. But I mean, they're all, you know, okay, maybe they're a bit stupid.
How are they going to not allow women to wear go without hijabs? They're that conservative, and then they're going to allow prostitution.
Well, okay, they've always been so hypocritical about prostitution, and Christians have also. So I'm going to say that there should be licensed brothels in red light districts, and the Quran tolerates it because there is a verse that tells you not to force your slave girls who wish to remain chaste into prostitution, which means it is okay if they agree to become prostitutes, and if slave girls can choose to be prostitutes, why not free women? That's my reasoning. So it's all right. You can be prostitutes, and and obviously you know, prostitutes will need a safe working environment. So you have licensed brothels in red light districts. Would you support that, Vincent?
Well, yes,
Carol wouldn't.
I would support that, but I
Oh,
wouldn't support the
thank
rest.
you. Oh, that if you're prepared to argue it, I think there's a lot of political leverage contained in that move.
Oh God,
No,
I
no,
need to.
because look, I tried to explain to you that the only way to make women choose sensibly is to say, right, woman, you can either choose to give wife sex or you can choose to give prostitute sex. Which is it gonna be, woman? And of course she's gonna say, well, I prefer the higher status supplier of sex. That's what I want to be. I don't want to be a prostitute. And it's like, fine, okay, let's work towards that. And then it means that the people, the women in the middle who give it for free, who aren't wives, they're the ones that need to be dealt with because they're cheaper than prostitutes. Ha ha ha. That's how you deal with them. It's all psychology. And of course, men will just have to give up their idea of, getting lucky, going to a club, and, sweet talking some stupid woman into having sex with them. Because, that's what they think they might be able to do. These men. It's like, no, you have to pay. If you can't afford a wife, you can go to the red light district. And there will be singles bars there, and there'll also be love hotels where you can bring your own prostitute and have sex with her and hire the room for however many hours you think you might need it.
I
So
mean,
they can still do it.
this is what I'm
But
saying.
they
There
will
needs to be a
feel that they're a bit low status, and maybe the women will think, well, maybe I'm just not going to do this sort of thing anymore. I'm not going to be, a cheaper than prostitute woman. And then the men will just have to fall in because they have no choice. It's like, the men will have to take us if we're sluts. They also have to take us if we insist on being virgin brides, or they'll just be left with being gay or playing sex games with each other, with trannies and things.
Well, John Vance seems happy with his tranny girlfriend, so you
Well, he hasn't
know.
even met her. I mean,
Well,
I
I
mean, I already
mean,
know I don't think they're likely to meet. And actually, I did talk to a tranny on LinkedIn some time ago. It's like it was so weird, because it was it's like, why do you write like that? It's so weird. And then
well,
it turned out,
obviously some men like it's. I mean, look, it's a phenomenon where married men are leaving their wives for trannies because it's just easier. That it's like, it's because the thing is that I think that in the gay community there's more of this like master slave dynamic. The thing is that gay bottoms want to be submissive and you know raped. Like they want that. They want that. And so it's easier to deal with them. And, it's just, yeah, it is easier to deal with a submissive tranny. She wants to be a woman. She wants to be more of a woman than a woman. And, she wants to like prove she can do better than a woman. And the thing is that, and then there's that, they know what a man wants and they don't have different feelings and emotions about it. And that's about it. And it's easier. It's just easier to deal with a tranny than it is to deal with a woman.
yes, I actually see the reasoning behind it, but obviously it's not going to be good for your birth rates, white
Well, he
people.
wants to get a.
You dropped out. I can't hear Vincent anymore. Sage, what do you mean,
Hello?
Max?
If
Yes,
you
hi.
if you get surrogates, then it's fine, and that's just changing the culture and the way that people operate, and that's what needs to be happening. And it's just I'm saying fundamentally change the way society operates. Obviously, as society progresses towards more and more advancement, people get into trans and feminism and gays and all this other kind of stuff, and then everyone's going to say, well, if you stay like this, you're going to collapse. But if you fundamentally change the way that you operate, you wouldn't collapse. And then everyone can be trans, and men can have, women, and they're not women, but men can have wives who are trans, but at least like they're not unhappy, and at least the trans girl is submissive and easy to
They
deal
won't be
with.
having lots of children, Vincent. Come on. You know they're not
If
going.
you have two incomes and you dedicate one of the incomes toward employing a woman to have your children, then yes, you would have
Who's going to look
children.
after the kid?
Well, you just think that, like, I know you think that like biological mothers are just so much more better than like a trans woman would be,
Yes.
well, look at what we have. Look what we've always had. I mean, society has always been fucked up, because women. What if it's women that don't make good mothers? What if it's
Okay, well, shame them.
okay? Well, that's not that they're not naturally good, and then you have to put all this energy and time into the system, and maybe a
Give them
trans.
remedial classes in
Yeah, well,
marriageability or whatever.
maybe a trans woman, because she wants to try harder, maybe she would be a better mother, and like, she actually wants to pretend to be that so much more than a woman, and then she's not resentful because her body's not all torn up from having kids, and she didn't get fat, from having kids, and
No, no,
and
but Vincent, don't you understand that the biological parents bit is important because, you know, you, okay, some people don't even care that it's their own child from their own flesh, and abuse them. But I mean, think, and people in care, sorry, children in care homes tend to get abused because
I don't know if they get
their
abused
carers
more.
don't love them. They don't care for them.
Let's look at that. Let's see. Are children more likely? I don't know if they're more likely. Everyone's like, oh, they get raped in child home. Okay. Are children abused more in foster care than with biological parents?
Look, children are already so annoying that even though it's your own flesh and blood, maybe you want to kill them too, right? I don't know if your parents ever said, I'll kill you. I'm sure everybody has had parents who said things like that.
Well, I think that,
Yes, you have too. Ha 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 ha.
well, no, well, I wouldn't be upset if that's what they told me, because that's like just rage, or that's different than, I don't want to say what they told me, but it wasn't what an average parent has done to their child. I don't
You
think,
don't know what average parents are.
well, if average parents are, my mother tried to get me to kill myself. I mean, that's what I've been hiding. And I don't think the average parent, starts screaming at their child, coming to them with as a knife, saying, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself, for no reason. Not even because I did something wrong, just because she just blew up into a rage out of nothing because she was mad about something else. And like, obviously, if you're mad about something else, you're not, she wasn't even mad at me. Okay. She wasn't even mad at me. She was mad about something else. And she just couldn't maintain her hatred. And, she came at me with the knife, and she tried to get me to kill myself. She was
Oh, she,
handing,
she, she was giving you the knife for you to kill yourself.
yes.
Was that the thing? She wasn't trying to, stab you.
No, she was giving me the knife and telling me to kill me. But, for like, if you just, if you just blow up, like, if you haven't done anything wrong and your mother just blows up and starts trying to get you to kill yourself, there's obviously hatred there. There's obviously,
Well, you
like,
said she was into drugs and drink or something.
not at the time. This is when she was converting to Jehovah's Witness, and, she just,
Had you come out as gay already?
no, she probably knew it though, and that was probably why she did it. 'Cause she just didn't feel like raising a gay child, and she tried to convince me that I wanted to do it, and then, she tried to convince me that I wanted to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I
And
was
then you
probably
decided not to.
well, I know, but she obviously wanted that to happen, and then she only I got sent to school. She only apologized because I went to school and I was crying. This is when I was young. I was like I don't know, 8 years old or something like that. And
Oh dear.
yeah, I was like 8 years old, and I went to school crying, and they sent me to the nurse, and they either called the house or she got scared that she would get in trouble with child protective, and she
Mm-hmm.
came in and she apologized, but it wasn't like sincere. And it just, it kind of woke me up. It woke
I
me up.
bet.
I woke up to, what motherhood is all about and what parenthood is all about. And, I mean, yeah, they both made it, both of my parents made it clear that my mother less often than my father. My mother hid it more, but okay, the difference between my parents, my father was just more frequently nasty, but it was nasty. Don't I'm not saying it wasn't nasty, but it wasn't as nasty. Whereas my mother was less frequently nasty, but when she did get nasty, it was really crazy. It was like really insane. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And like, you can just tell. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it did have to do with the fact that, I was gay, and, I mean, my father would make, even before I came out as gay, would make comments like alluding to, how homophobic he was, and, well, if I had a gay son, which I guess was a veiled way of saying I know that you're gay, and so I don't really want you. It was like this kind of like veiled, you
Well, I
know,
suppose they were trying to discourage you.
yeah, I know, but I mean, it wasn't that they were trying, it wasn't so much they were trying to discourage me, it was that they knew what it was and they just didn't want to deal with it. It wasn't like this, like, some parents, that I don't know, they didn't send me to some camp to like, make me better or something like that. It was just kind of like a giving up, and, maybe it's better, maybe once it's better for you to just disappear. You know what I mean? And like, it just, better that you just disappear and kill yourself. I mean, that
Well,
was
I'm sure
kind
they've
of,
changed their minds after
well,
that, haven't they? I mean, haven't they made it clear that they're quite fond of you after all?
the thing is that when a child grows up and it can fight back, parents change. A lot of abusive parents become much less abusive when the child is an adult, because it's not as easy to be as abusive to an
Mm-hmm.
adult than it is, and so that happens a lot. And but if they could all go back and do it all over again, would they have not had children together? Then yes. I mean, and not just, and it's also, the fact that you're a reminder of their failed marriage, and oh my God, you act just like your father, and I hate him, and it's just like that's really,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
gets.
I had a lot of just like your mother, just like your father, accusations from my parents.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, and then, what kind of I hate your parent, I hate your other parent, and you're just like them. And like, if they absolutely loathe and detest the father, and then they say you're just like your father, like, that's up, you know what I mean? Like, my parents loathed and detested each other. And, so to say you're just like someone I loathe and detest, and
Well,
it's just,
just let me
and this
tell
is the
you
other the
that,
other thing about having
I had a lot of that from
the
both sides.
the if well, in your generation, I mean, your parents probably viewed you as like a social security check. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, yeah, like, you're my social security check, and you're going to take care of me when I'm older. And, this happens in a lot of traditional societies where these
People
parents.
say lots of mean things to people that they quite
I know,
like
but if you,
after all.
but like, you're just well. This is why, in ancient Israel, you could be killed for not obeying your parents because, you know people know, heterosexuals know they're going to abuse their children and try to get them to kill themselves. But the thing is that they want something in place so that the child is forced to be their social security check, or at least this is the way that it had always been. And so, there were no rules of respecting the child, but, it was, it's that you have to respect me no matter what I do.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, that idea is basically like, well, to make you want to have children because it's like, well, I spend all that time and money and then they just accuse me of child abuse. Hell, I'm not going to have any children.
Well, I
You
know
know,
this is why I'm saying things need to fundamentally change, because heterosexuals are natural child abusers and they need these laws in place in order to keep their children under their reign. And I'm just saying, if we bred a population that was more noble and didn't abuse their children, then children would naturally respect their parents. There are children who naturally respect their parents, and I'm not saying parents can't discipline their children, but there are, it happens. It's not common, but there are parents. If everyone were good parents and the human race was more noble, then you know um it just, we wouldn't have these kinds of problems. But you have to make it so that there was this collective pressure, and the way it used to be, the way it is in India, the way that these parents, are just so entitled to their children's labor. And like, and I think it's gross. Your daughter-in-law has to massage your feet. Like, what kind of fucking person like asks their daughter-in-law to massage their feet for them on a daily basis? And like, this is your, like, and they're not even grateful for it, and they're nasty, and they just complain. And there's just these like old grumpy old nasty people demanding that young people should massage their smelly feet and cook for them. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of course people are going to rebel against that. What kind of person wants to take care of someone like that who's not even grateful and is just going to complain about everything that's wrong with you?
well, obviously people should be nice to each other, but the whole idea of respecting one's elders is that, well, parents do a difficult job, and it would, if you tell them that they can't do anything with their kid, it's like, well, why would I want to do that? Maybe I'll just own a cat. I'll get more fun out of it. And this is really, if you make somebody feel like they own something, they might take more care of it. If you say, you don't own this creature, but you have to look after it, you'll probably hate the thing and mistreat it because of the idea that you you're just doing it for somebody else. And in a way, what most governments, well, I think what all governments do is like, yeah, you gotta breed for your country, otherwise we'll just die out. You better love your country, or you're a traitor, a subversive, not worth having around. All these. I mean, basically, we are the slaves of our government. They don't, obviously they don't tell us in the West, but I mean, this is the
Well,
case. So they just
well,
pretend, they want us to think that we are treated better in the West than anywhere else. That's what they want us to think. But do they? They don't, okay, they don't even want us to breed, because what they want in this population reduction thing is that, yeah, I mean, in the olden days, rich, powerful people would say, yeah, they're all my slaves, I want to make them slaves. But the thing is, they can't even be bothered to deal with us as slaves. They just want us to die off so they can have robots. Robots will be their slaves, and that is what they want. So I think that's unhealthy, and also their plan doesn't even work on their own terms, because what will happen is that, all this AI, it's very specialized, very hard to run, and it's bound to go wrong, and you'll need somebody to fix it, and then the people who fix it are going to charge you lots and lots and lots of money to fix your AI problem. So it's probably better if you can just get a human to, I don't know, clean your house or, type your letters or whatever it is you want them to do. It's just better to get a human to do it rather than, just have very few humans who don't even know how the AI and robots and whatever work, relying on these technocrats who are going to charge you an eye and a limb to fix things whenever they go wrong, and they will go wrong. So it doesn't even work on their own terms. And they're crazy and stupid, and it's time to call out the craziness and stupidity of these people with their pie in the sky ideas. And I don't know if you listen to Elon Musk, and he was saying, well, we should have more people because I want to explore space. We're supposed to colonize the rest of the rest of the galaxy. Not sort of die with our robots on this earth. And I think he somehow has a point.
Claire, just give me 1 second. I will be right back.
Okay,
I'm okay. I'll be right back. I just need to make a phone call.
So Max says it's selfish to concern yourself with sexual interests that won't result in children. Yes. So that's the whole point of marriage. You want to regulate your sexual interactions with the member of the opposite sex that you're married to. And you want to make the marriage license a desirable piece of paper to have because it entitles you to sex and children. And we have to raise the price of sex for things to be right again. Hello, Elliot.
Claire?
Yes?
Oh, you have a visitor. I'm gonna go for a little while. Why don't we stream again in a little bit at your place?
Okay, somebody's answering it anyway.
Okay.
But you have to go, and it's nearly 2 hours. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.